Hey, welcome back. Today I want to discuss a topic that flies under many people's radar, crafting, and why you probably should not be bothering with it for now. Anyone familiar with AION 1 crafting would know that it was a very important part of the game, especially on the consumable side of things. Indeed, AION 1 had the exact same aspect of crafting with the scrolls, the potions and so on and so forth, but it felt a lot better integrated into the game, as we will discuss now. But first, let's discuss the positives of AION 2's crafting compared to AION 1. You see, crafting in AION 2 was very much streamlined in comparison to AION 1, in the sense that all of the recipes throughout all of the different crafting types were all pretty much streamlined to use the same batch of ingredients, which really helps with keeping ingredients easy to obtain. Because one of the problems of AION 1 is that specific crafts required specific ingredients, and not all of them were always easily accessible or found by many people. So you would end up having to over-extensively use morphing, or you would have to go out and gather those ingredients by yourself. Now, with AION 2, that's kind of a thing of the past. Every single piece of metallic equipment will use orichalcum. Every single craft that used gems like accessories and some of the scroll crafting will use the same 3 gems, and all of the crafts that use wood will use the same type of wood. And that makes crafting very accessible and ingredients very easy to obtain. It's a good thing. It's honestly a good change and I'm a big fan of it. But now, the bad part of crafting. First, let's discuss equipment crafting. So equipment crafting pretty much goes through the same process across all pieces of equipment. It's pretty streamlined, as I said, right? First, you craft a white piece of equipment, you have a 25% chance to proc into green, and then you bring that green to craft a superior green version of that equipment. You try to fish for a blue proc, and then you bring that blue proc and you try to fish for a gold proc. Pretty simple, right? This is the exact same process across every single piece of equipment. Now, I don't really have a problem with the proc system in itself. This is basically the same as it was in AION 1. The main problem I have with it is that AION 1 had a pity system on the procs. If you got too many non-procs, you could turn them into a proc version through another recipe. So let's say if I craft this earring 3 times and none of them proc, and I have 3 blue earrings, I would be able to grab those 3 earrings plus a couple of ingredients, so you essentially pay a Kina fee to the NPC to get special ingredients, to turn them into 1 pair of gold earrings, right? It's a small thing, but it ensures that within a certain amount of craft, you can pretty much always expect to have a certain amount of temps, right? And then we go into the barely craft. So the barely craft, unlike the previous step, they're not progressive. It's basically, they are a branching path, right? So the barely craft all follow the same kind of ingredient list, which is always going to be the gold proc from the previous craft I talked about, gold fluxes, specific blue Belic ingredients that varies depending on the type of equipment that you're making, a certain gold ore and Radiant ore dial, as well as a few Belic equipment depending on the grade and type of item that you're making. For the first step of the Belic gear, which is a Star Dragon gear on the Asmo side, the eye level 70 piece of equipment, you would be using only Wrathful Mines. If you want to make the step above that, which is the Dark Dragon gear, or I'm pretty sure it's like the White Dragon gear in Ilios side, you would be using less Wrathful Mind, but you would also be using Wrathful Will, as well as a high amount of the other ingredients. If you go into the Ebony Dragon, you would be using, again, a bit more of the other ingredients, less Wrathful Mind, less Wrathful Will, and you would add Wrathful Ego. And finally, going into the Eternal, you would be using a pretty big amount of the other ingredient, and a new ingredient, which is the Madden Curse of Wrath, which is an ingredient that either comes from the season shop or from defeating the 8-mine raid. So on paper, I do like this branching path, especially since the main difference between those pieces of equipment isn't so much the base stats, it is the eye level, which, because of this game has an eye level scaling system in PvE, basically the higher your eye level is, the stronger you will be. So while you're not necessarily gaining that many stats from the piece of equipment itself, outside of weapons of course, you're progressing your eye level, which allows you to do content easier, right? And of course, just like with the previous steps, you have a 25% chance to proc a slightly better version of that craft. So once again, typical Korean crafting RNG stuff, the same system was in AION 1. It is what it is. Personally, I don't really have a problem with it. It makes craft that you manage to proc feel that much more special. It adds a bit of tension when you click the button, I don't really mind it in general. This type of RNG I don't really have a big problem with, because at the end of the day, as long as when you click the craft and you have an expected end result, that's fine with me. The main problem with crafting is not shown in any of the menus. It is actually something that is hidden from you and that you wouldn't get to know until you either hear from it or you experience it yourself. And this is the failure rate. In AION 1, basically when you launch a craft, and I'll just display here, when you launch a craft, you have a success bar and you have a failure bar, right? And you don't really have any control over it. It just fills by itself, and if it fully fills the success bar, the craft's finished and you get the item, or it can hit the 25% proc that I discussed earlier and start the craft over with that new proc, right? And then once again, if it reaches the end of the success bar, you will get the expected item. But if the failure bar hits, the craft fails and you lose your ingredients and you don't have anything. Now, in AION 1, this was also the case. The craft could fail and same thing, you would lose your ingredients. But in AION 1, failure was dictated by the differential of your own level compared to the craft level. So let's say this craft is level 5, right? I'm currently professional level 50, which in the grand scheme of things is basically level 100. So in AION 1, if I do this craft, I have a 0% chance to fail it. I will always succeed. Because basically in AION 1, failure rate worked in steps of 10 levels. And once you were 40 levels above a craft, the failure rate dropped to 0%, right? In AION 2, it works a little bit different. Now, I wasn't able to find the exact formula that this game uses, but I have done a lot of crafting in this game, and it does seem like leveling impact the failure rate a little bit, but you will always have a chance to fail. And as the craft gets higher and higher level, that baseline failure rate gets higher and higher to the point where it's not manageable anymore. Let's take this earring, for example, right? This earring is Novice level 5, so as I say, I have about 95 levels above this. In AION 1, it couldn't fail. In this game, I have noticed that it will fail about 5 to 10% of the time, even though this is a very low level craft. As you raise up in the novice category, it doesn't really seem to go up that much, but as soon as you break into professional, it goes up dramatically, to the point where the level 5 professional crafts seem to have around a 20 to 25% failure rate, and if you push all the way to the eternal gear, it seems to be at least a 60% failure rate, as it is. Yes, you heard me. 60% failure rate. You are more likely to fail when you launch this craft that at the moment costs hundreds of millions of kina, than you are to succeed. And this is one of the reasons why crafting simply is not worth it right now. The other reason that crafting isn't worth it is that the main reason you would craft equipment right now would be to get equipment with the PvE damage boost stat on here, right? This stat remains the exact same across all of the different grades. It's always going to be 2.5%. As I said earlier, the main thing that you will gain from crafting the higher grades will be slightly higher stats from the soul binding, slightly higher stats from the base stats, as well as the eye level differential, right? Problem is, as of right now, and obviously this could change when Season 2 comes and as the game progresses, but as of right now, as of the making of this video, there is simply not a single piece of content in this game that requires you to have crafted gear. Sanctuary, which is currently the highest difficulty piece of content in this game, doesn't require you to even have a single piece of crafted gear. In fact, an entire force of 8 people using PvP gear with a little bit of breakthrough and barely breaking 3000 item level would be perfectly able to clear this raid. Yes, you will need to learn the mechanic. Yes, you may not clear it as easily as giga-juiced people with full PvE crafted gear, but the fundamental here is that you simply do not need that gear. You can go in with dungeon gear, you can go in with PvP gear, and you will be able to clear the fight. Which makes us go back to the crafted gear. The crafted gear as it is right now is not very accessible to the majority of players. The entry gear Star Dragon gear is very much doable, it's very much makeable, but you will still invest a lot of money, time, and luck into making it. even on the most basic level. Money that you could invest just simply breakthroughing your PvP gear or rerolling better stats on your dungeon gear. So in that aspect, even if you really want to get that crafted gear, just farm the money and buy it. Because at the end of the day, a lot of these are pretty inexpensive. Like this ring is 17 million, which is basically the same amount you would spend clicking the button to attempt the craft, right? So if you really want to buy some pieces of gear just to make your sanctuary runs or what have you a bit easier, you're simply better off just buying it than attempting to craft it yourself. Now that's the equipment part covered, but I do want to discuss something else, because the equipment part is one thing, but there is another aspect which is honestly the most baffling aspect of crafting in this game in my opinion, which is consumable crafting. Consumable crafting in AION 1 was the lifeblood of crafting, because while equipment crafting was important for certain things, consumable crafting was something that absolutely everyone, and I mean everyone in the game did, because it was so deeply integrated into your gameplay and your day-to-day play. AION 1 had a very simple cycle of consumable crafting. You would gather ether, or you would buy it. You would get DP from killing stuff or other players. You would morph that ether into ingredients, large amounts of ingredients at a time, and then you would be crafting your consumables, your scrolls, your food, what have you, right? Very simple process. And you made heaps and heaps at a time from crafting. Unlike AION 2 and AION 1, when you made consumables, you made huge batches of them with a single click. A single click to craft a scroll gave you 5 scrolls at a time. A single click of making food gave you 3 foods at a time. That kind of stuff, right? In AION 2, not only is the ingredient gathering incredibly tedious in comparison, when you click the craft, you're only making 1 scroll, 1 food, 1 potion at a time. That simply doesn't fly with a game that uses as many consumables as AION. We are basically using consumables at a similar rate, if not faster, than on AION 1, but when we attempt to craft them, we are crafting them significantly slower, because not only is the ingredient gathering part worse, the crafting process is also a lot slower because you're making 1 at a time. The other thing is that when you're crafting scrolls, you're not even crafting the best scrolls, you're crafting intermediate scrolls, and the actual best scrolls in the game are 10% procs when you click the button. What the fuck is this? We do not need procs on consumables. These scrolls should be a separate craft from those blue scrolls. Yes, you can make them use the bigger ink. Yes, you can make them use more ingredients, but these should be separate. They should not be procs. Having procs on something as simple as consumables is quite frankly preposterous. Another preposterous thing is cooking. You see, in AION 1, as I said, when you were crafting food, you were making multiple at a time. Second of all, food in AION 1 lasted from 30 minutes to an hour. Food in this game only lasts for 5 minutes. It doesn't make any sense. And once again, the food in this game is harder to make than the food in AION 1, because some of the ingredients requires you to kill monsters. Some of this Balic food, which is the food that you actually want to use in PvP because it gives 10% status effect resist on top of giving more stats in general, requires Odil and Below-me. This is stuff that you have to go out and farm and gather on top of the regular gatherable and the stuff that you buy from the NPCs. It simply cannot be upkept. And at the end of the day, what does this cause? It makes consumable crafting a bot job, and the regular players just buy from the bots. Now, how do we fix all of this? And can it even be fixed, right? Well, first of all, I think the level differential in crafts should work the same as in AION 1. One thing that they did really well in AION 2 is that absolutely everything in the game has no negative progress in it, unlike AION 1. Because in AION 1, if you failed the mana stone, if you failed an enchantment stone, you just lost progress. You would work towards something and you would lose progress. In this game, the worst that can happen is you build pity. You build pity on dungeons. You build pity on enchanting. You build pity in everything and you never work backwards. Crafting, on the other hand, for some reason, is the complete opposite. Not only do you have no control over it, but there's a huge chance that if you go for one of the endgame crafts, when you click the button, when you use all of those ingredients that you took time and money and effort to farm, the game is just gonna say, nah, actually, go fuck yourself. and it's gonna fail the craft and you will be left with absolutely nothing to show for it. This goes against every single principles that this game has been setting out to improve on, right? Failure rate in general, if it's not completely removed from the game, which I think it should be, should at the very least be lessened or even completely removed by the act of leveling up. If you're professional level 50 and you craft an Ebony Dragon equipment, it should be 0% failure rate. Now, if you want to put some failure rate on the whole dragon gear for now, because you don't want players to go for these right now, you can go for it. But even then, I think that's pushing it. As long as something is available to craft in the game, as long as you're able to gather the crafting ingredients, you should be able to finish the craft successfully. And the RNG part should be in the proc. This is already reason enough for people to fish for more crafts. You don't need failures on top of it. Now, on the consumable side of things, well, first of all, these crafts should just be bundles. Just make us use more ingredients at a time and make us make 5 at a time. I don't care how you do it. I don't care if you make it a separate craft, like the other bundle crafts that you have, by the way. Like, how the hell do you have bundle crafts for ingredients, but then you don't have bundle crafts for the scrolls themselves? Like, what are we thinking here? Is it because of this proc? Then just remove it. Make this proc a separate craft that uses the higher grade ink. By definition, this will make it more expensive. And people will at least go for it more, and we will have more of them on the auction house. Because what ends up happening right now is that everyone just uses the scrolls that you buy from the NPCs. And only whales buy scrolls from the auction house to use them. This is just a completely ass-backward system. Just turn these into bundles and separate these into other crafts that use the higher grade ink. And also make them bundles. Same thing with the potions. We don't need a 25% chance to craft 2 instead of 1. Ooh, nobody gives a shit about that. Just make bundle crafts. Make us craft 5 at a time. As for cooking, the ingredients can stay as is, but food should last for 30 minutes and it shouldn't expire when you die, especially given the amount of effort it takes to make one food. Now, as a quick footnote, there is a single thing in the game that is worth crafting, and that is mana stone. Because mana stones are very easy to make, the ingredients are given to you in huge quantities 24/7, and unless you're a whale trying to fish for the perfect stats on your mana stones, you get enough mana stones from running your Ascension trial on both your main and your alts, right? So you're not really using these, so you can at the very least craft them, craft these, and sell the procs and make some decent money. These are okay. Again, they can fail, which just remove the failure. But these as is, I think, are the only acceptable addition to the game. Now, I also quickly want to talk about an aspect of gathering that is also a bit questionable, considering it was handled better in Ion 1. You see, in Ion 1, when you gathered a higher grade of a gatherable, like this fine orichalcum ore or this fine odal, you could break them down by just right-clicking on them into 3 of the low of the grade right below the grade that you just dissolved, right? So let's say if you have that fine odal, you right-click on it, and it turns into 3 regular white odal, right? This was also a good way to ensure that every single step of ingredient remained useful, because even if you didn't need that specific grade of ingredient, you could just break them down into the lower grades that you actually need. So one of the common complaints that people have is that when they gather odal, they keep getting fine odal, but the game barely has any use of it. So if we could actually just break them down into white odal, then all of a sudden you'd be much happier getting fine odal, right? And the price across every odal grade would stabilize. So that's another small thing that I think they should actually add. And yeah, that's it for this video. Just a quick one. I just wanted to discuss this topic because I don't really see many people talk about it, but I feel like it's definitely one of the things in this game that needs the most urgent change. Because of the lack of information around crafting, a lot of people go into it having expectations to make gear and make progress in order to tackle harder content, not realizing that number 1, you don't need to, and number 2, you're very likely to just lose your money by doing it. And I can already tell you for sure that people have quit the game over failing big crafts in this game. It's not a good thing, and it needs to be gone. And hey, as always, if you like this video, make sure to leave a like, maybe comment about stuff if I forgot anything, or if you have a different opinion. I would love to start a discussion about this. And if you want to find more of me, You can also find me on Twitch, where I will be streaming this game fairly often in the future, especially as global approaches. Take care and see you on the next one.